In the darkness of the galactic south, a region of space rife with wild frontier planets, a powerful hostile armada lurks between the stars, intent on cleansing this galaxy of all life that may challenge its pre-eminence. Countless of our own have perished to this predatory fleet. Young fledgling settlements, as well as wide-eyed exploratory teams, utterly massacred for the crime of treading upon a world they did not know was already claimed. They strike without warning or provocation, thus ensuring the tide of battle flows heavily in their favour. So they must, for these warriors of supreme skill are few, outnumbered 1 billion times by the many terrors this galaxy vomits forth, especially in these dire times. Emperor, preserve our souls. In an era where our forces are deployed in more engagements than we can ever hope to win, Xenos, who would usually be classed an annoyance, have been marauding our vulnerable underbelly, that is, undefended populaces and small exploratory convoys, desperately out of their depths in any scale of void engagement. Within the era Indomitus, have the warlike, expansionist Eldari Swordwind hosts been making their presence felt. Keen intelligence informs us that recently, the mighty ship-borne civilization that was the craft world Biel-Tan has been utterly ravaged by a dark alliance of Slaanesh and Khorne demonkind, champions of both chaos powers present in the Mask of Slaanesh and Skarbrand. These ancient generals marshalling their unholy legions on the craft world turned urban battlefield. We understand that what resulted was an outcome that little have tried and none have ever returned from. That is, the shattering of this world ship and the humbling of its haughty populace. Oh, how I'd have enjoyed witnessing the breaking of this proud people, but best not. Seeing for my own eyes the creatures of the warp would likely mean I wouldn't be here now. So present of mind and speaking to you, my sanity would instead likely mirror the sundered state of that cursed craft world. Knowing that this race is but a speck of dust floating in the void compared to the more numerous or younger up-and-coming civilizations of our time, a blow such as this could have very well sounded the death knell for the inhabitants of Biel-Tan. Speaking true of their ethos, however, that is, the foolish endeavour to reunite their people and again place them in the ascendancy within the Milky Way galaxy, the rending of their home seems to have not extinguished the Eldar's passion for war. If anything, in fact, in the time since being brought so low, the heinous acts of xenocide committed by the vicious aspect warriors of the Swordwind host seem to have increased in both frequency and intensity. As stated in my previous vidlog concerning the potential end of the material plane and rebirth of our glorious God Emperor, link on screen now, and within the description, our intelligence tells of the Eldari's efforts to resurrect Iniad, the Eldari god of the dead. It would seem that many of the fiery, militant citizens of Biel-Tan find themselves inspired by the Inari's efforts to rid their race of the threat that Slaanesh, she who thirsts, poses upon their people, for many of their finest warriors have chosen to leave the remnants of Biel-Tan and join the Inari on their galaxy-spanning quest, further weakening the Biel-Tan fleet. For some Osiriani, though certainly not all, the mission the newly founded Inari faction embark upon is held in high esteem, for to end the threat of Slaanesh would free that people of a burden worse than death. You see, when an Osiriani dies, their soul is captured in the Spirit Stone one often witnesses adorned on their personage. These Spirit Stones are then linked to the infinity circuit of a craft world, all past generations' souls present to provide guidance to those who yet live on. Were an Eldar to die without a Spirit Stone absorbing their soul within their final moments, their souls, shining beacons in the warp, are promised to Slaanesh and devoured in an eternity of agony best not dwelt on. Surely now, during this tumultuous time of upheaval, it is the most opportune moment to strike out at these marauding Xenos, thus ending the threat they pose to our Imperium permanently. If anything, the loss of so much of their cultural identity, not to mention the sheer quantity of pitiful citizens murdered by foul warp spawn, has brought onto the galactic stage a faction that few of our own commanders have taken seriously in the past millennia. That is the Eldari Exodites. Alas, recent sightings of the predacious Swordwind host tell of mighty warriors riding astride reptilian Xenos, an ancient call to the present-day jet bikes or vipers of the craftworlders. Frantic tales retold by all too few human survivors regale their rescuers of eyewitness accounts, Eldari who appear primitive in nature compared to their craftworld counterparts, not possessing the heavy anti-gravitic weaponry or vehicles the Usuriani are famed for. They instead ride to battle upon mighty dragon-like beasts, vicious in temperament, or even lumbering herbivorous animals who are capable of crushing a Lehman Russ battle tank underfoot. Whilst the Exodite Eldar's appearance is surely at odds with their more contemporary craftworld cousins, the sight of this newly forged Swordwind marching to war must be breathtaking indeed, if only in the moments which are a precursor to their righteous slaughter in the Emperor's name, of course. The rarely encountered, more innate peoples of the Exodite communities, whilst choosing to eschew the customary technology favoured by their craftworld cousins, still possess weaponry more than capable of blasting or piercing even power-armoured opponents. This, paired with the fact that Exodite Eldari are used to the daily turmoil and challenge of living off the land, means they make for a hardy opponent, even when compared to the Usuriani as a whole. For this reason, they should be taken seriously when fielded beside the aspect warrior hosts of Biel Tan. Although there is no formalised, overarching strategy to combat the threat Biel Tan and their newly bonded allies in the form of Exodites pose to the wider Imperium, I feel this matter must be brought to the attention of the High Lords as soon as bureaucracy allows, preferably within the next 2 centuries, if time is on our side. Some may scoff at this urgency or decry my entreaties for aid lunacy. I do understand there are matters more pressing than the marauding attentions of one craft world, though I pose to you the consideration that if our beloved Imperium ceases to expand, then it may very well commence a slow, protracted death instead. The mortality rate of founding fleets within the southern reaches of the galaxy, more specifically within Segmentum Tempestus, is growing by the decade. If we cannot provide adequate protection for settling citizens and exploratory teams, we may very nearly cease to adequately pressure volunteers into travelling there. This is a concern, given Segmentum Tempestus' safer distance from the Cicatrix Maledictum. My humble solution to this conundrum would be to request the aid of the Crimson Fist chapter of Space Marines, whose home base on Rinnsworld also lies within Segmentum Tempestus. Tales tell of the mighty Rabute Gilliman, Primarch and blessed son of the Emperor, gifting this storied chapter many new recruits in the form of the Primaris Marines. With a force such as this fighting on our behalf, the dastardly raiding forces of Biel Tan would surely find themselves overwhelmed. A strategy we could use in tandem with the brunt of the mighty Crimson Fists is to deploy Deathwatch kill teams. These small, specialised squads of Space Marines could insert onto the largest ships of Craftworld Biel Tan, laying waste to their holdings, including what remains of their Infinity Circuit, as well as tying up the formidable aspect warriors and wraith constructs in the process, thus diverting reinforcements from the main engagement. Were we to successfully cripple or even rid ourselves entirely of the Biel Tan menace, our valuable explorator fleets would have the opportunity to reach into the southern galactic rim en masse. Securing this territory could very well allow our beloved Imperium a safe port to adequately marshal our forces for a push into either Naeselius to the east, or the most recent High Fleet Leviathan incursion within Segmentum Pacificus to our west. More about that in the link above. Moving into 10th, given the damage Biltan sustains motivating them anew to reforge their empire of old, I would really enjoy exploring new lore pertaining to this most martial of craft worlds. Perhaps the more stubborn of their number will finally elect to forge an alliance with the Inari, or maybe they'll lean heavily into the Exodite feature and become more of a consistent combined arms force, the Swordwind turning into more of an amalgamation of aspect warriors and dinosaur riding tribesmen. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Biltan. Do you enjoy the more heavy aspect warrior culture and the way their narrative has evolved so far in 10th? And do you think we'll get to see some Exodite models? Biltan was my first army I started collecting as a kid. I think maybe just over 20 years ago, as I noted in my tale of one hobbyist, link in the description, part 2 coming soon. What drew me to them then is the same thing that sparks the hobbyist and lore enthusiast inside me now. That is the abundance of aspect warriors fielded, as well as the more warlike nature which pervades the Biltan society. The ability to field a large bunch of skimmers loaded with deadly aspect warriors, zooming forward in falcons and wave serpents, deploying at the most ideal position to inflict maximum damage in line with their skill set, just as the Swordwind does within the lore, is too cool to ignore. Keeping in mind that the narrative concerning Biltan has progressed during the Dark Imperium novels, it'll be interesting to see whether Exodite Eldar start to gain their own model range as either a standalone force or even just an ally. My guess would be either a small range like Harlequins that will be expanded upon in time, or purely a few units which can be allied into Craftworld or Inari builds. We also have a newly started Discord server where I'd love to foster a community, whether you're into just the lore or the hobby, or both. The link's in the description, so come say hi. If you're in either Oz or Kiwi land and you enjoy what we do so would like to support the channel, please check out the link in the description to Gap Games. It's a hobby store which has anywhere up to 21% off standard price of Games Workshop models. The channel receives a percentage of purchases made through that link, so it's an excellent way to expand your army on the cheap as well as supporting us. Besides that, a like, share, comment and subscribe does wonders to share the video and help it to gain traction with the algorithm. Thank you. Knowing your watch data, YouTube is suggesting the video pictured. Otherwise, if you trust my suggestion, check out the description for more entertaining content. Thanks for watching, take it easy, have a good one.